Hello, hi there. Welcome to Guiding Voice podcast series, The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help students and young professionals to shape their careers. Dear listeners, in every episode, we interact with industry experts and drive some insightful conversations that will help our audience learn great things. We also share an interesting trivia or fun fact around the IT world towards the end of every episode. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and I'm with my co-host Sudhakar. So folks, communication is the fundamental aspect to the existence and survival of human beings as well as to an organization. It is a process of creating and sharing ideas, information, views, facts, feelings, etc. among the people to reach a common understanding. Communication is the key to the directing function of management. An engineer or a manager may be highly qualified and skilled, but he or she does not possess good communication skills. All his or her ability becomes irrelevant. A manager must also communicate his or her directions effectively to the subordinates to get the work done from them properly. Given that communication is very essential to succeed in today's world, we are going to discuss effective communication as our topic for today. And we are pleased to welcome Dr. Sowmya to our show to discuss the same.
Dr. Sowmya Narayanan is the professor and head of the Center for Life Skills and Lifelong Learning at New Horizon College of Engineering. As an academician and a learning consultant, Dr. Sowmya has been involved in bringing innovation in the learning and development activities of the academic institutions and the corporates spanning over a period of 15 years. She is a PhD from VIT University, Vellore in the topic Application of Bloom's Taxonomy with respect to teaching of certain engineering courses. A graduate in physics and a postgraduate in public administration, Dr. Sowmya has passed the State Level Eligibility for lectureship. She is also a PGDBA from Symbiosis. In her 25 plus years of career journey, Dr. Sowmya has worked for VFS, Aptech, SEED, VIT and Talent Sprint and is currently associated with the New Horizon College of Engineering, Bengaluru. Dr. Sowmya's major certifications include Master Trainer from Wipro Technologies for their Mission 10X program, Dale Carnegie Certificate for High Impact Teaching Skills, Cambridge International Certificate for Teachers and Trainers, British Council Certified IELTS Trainer. Coming to Dr. Sowmya's overseas assignments, she has trained the faculty at Caledonian University, Muscat, Oman. In addition, Dr. Sowmya presented a paper on India education structure at the TVET conference, Cologne University, Germany. Dr. Sowmya, welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast again. Let's get into our conversation.
Thank you very much. Very good evening to Naveen and Sudhakar. The first thing that I would like to congratulate both of you on this wonderful podcast series, The Guiding Voice. The name itself is so salubrious to hear, and I'm sure it's going to benefit the younger generation very much. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. In fact, you're putting me on board on my very first ever podcast series, and I wish you guys best.
Thank you for encouraging words. Actually, camaraderie and support from the people like you, from the industry, is actually helping us to go forward. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Sowmya, looking at your career path, you have studied physics and then public administration, and your doctorate is in education. I would say totally different streams, but you crafted an amazing career. Can you please share what helped you to succeed in these roles?
Surely, Sudhakar. And in fact, this is a question which I'm posed with by most of the persons who have had interaction with me. I started my BSc Physics in my bachelor's and then moved on to doing my public administration and then went to complete my PhD in education. So the beauty of all these qualifications is wherever I went, the first thing that I was asked is, Will I be interested in doing something with respect to communication? Will I be interested in taking up something regarding English? In fact, initially I felt a little bad because I felt that there was not sufficient importance given to my qualifications. But one thing I would like to very frankly admit is it's only and only because of my communication skills that today I'm heading a department very successfully, and I think it's really brought in a meaning. In fact, it's brought a complete closure to all my qualifications. So whether it's physics or public administration or be it my thinking skills PhD, I'm able to summarize and bring in all the learnings from these qualifications very well through my communication skills, and I'm able to transfer this knowledge in a beautiful pace to my students as well. So this is something I would want to tell everybody, that if your communication skills are good, I'm sure you can rule the world.
So Sowmya, in your words, what is an effective communication?
That's a very good question. See, anytime we talk to somebody, we can say that a communication is done. But what do we mean by effective communication? To put it very simply, it's trying to get your message across. And remember, the key thing here is if the listener's understanding matches to the sender's intent, I think the communication becomes effective. So there are two important things that you need to understand in the process of effectively communicating. Number one is your idea has to be heard, and more importantly, an action has to be taken. And secondly, in the same time, you have to listen to what the others have to say. You got to really understand, you got to interpret what the speaker is saying, and you need to take action. So I think it's mutual. So listening and speaking well, they constitute effective communication.
Those are wonderful insights. What is the importance of effective communication in today's world?
Actually, this answer, if you ask me, requires a lot of time to dwell on and deliberate. But I would like to touch upon something very specific, and probably I would look at it as pointers of the benefits of communicating well. The first thing is good communication fosters better relationships. The whole world, we are into networking, and we speak about establishing good rapport and better relationships. And this will definitely lead to immense trust among individuals. So the base is it. You have established a relationship, trust is built, and this is a very critical skill if you want to be an effective leader too. So for the leader, it's only the communication which is going to provide him the needed direction and the clarity in what he's trying to say. And from the corporate side, if you look at, I think it will definitely lead to improved team building skills, and ultimately productivity improves. So be it trust, be it fostering better relationships, being a very effective tool for the leader, and contributing to effective team building, and finally productivity.
It has got a lot to do with regard to achieving significant results to an organization, and you have summarized it very well. Now, can we talk a little bit about what is the difference between oral versus written communication and how someone can be effective?
All right. I think communication in any form will definitely be effective. But of course, there is going to be a lot of significant differences, if you ask me, between both the forms, namely the oral form and the written form. When we are going to look at immediacy in terms of immediate action, immediate response, okay, we will definitely go for an oral communication. On the other hand, if retention is going to be your goal, I think written communication would suit that objective very well. So the ability to use one over the other, whether you want to use oral communication or going to use your written communication, I think it completely is dependent on the context and the intent of the communicator. Say, for instance, you are looking at speaking something very fast. So if speed is the criteria, you want some instant feedback, and you also want to make use of the non-verbal cues that you get from the speaker and from the listener. I think oral communication is preferred. On the other hand, you want to go for, let's say, a careful examination of the facts presented to you. You want to delve in deeper comprehension, and you are looking for detailed explanation. I think written form is the best. But personally, if you ask me, I'm a person who prefers oral communication over the communication, with just one, I think, subtle difference is, say, for instance, if I'm speaking to you and if I'm able to detect the non-verbal cues from you, I can tweak my conversation to suit the requirement of the listener. So that's the biggest advantage of oral communication. So in the modern lingua, I think oral communication is so-called more agile than the written communication.
How would you say that someone is a great communicator? What are the characteristics that we are looking at?
Again, a very interesting question. I think the communication per se always should be looked at from the listener's angle. So what, according to me, is great communication, or who, according to me, has got the specific features of being a great communicator is the one who has understood his listener, number one, was able to connect and establish a rapport with them, and third important thing is to be able to inspire them to get into action. So a good communicator is the one who would be in a position to influence the outcomes of his discussion. He has got to engage the listeners. It cannot be a monologue. And he has to beautifully use the verbals and the non-verbals. That is of paramount importance. He has to have pertinent pauses. He has to stop wherever he thinks there is a requirement to engage the audience. So another thing I keep telling my students as well, the hallmarks of a good communicator, the three important things that he needs to keep in mind is brevity, clarity, and impactful. How you're able to communicate what you have in your mind in very simple words, number one, and trying to be precise, then you have actually won the battle. In fact, I love this quotation that says brevity is the soul of wit. So you need to be precise in your communication, and that itself is half the game won.
Now that we know communication is really important, so Dr. Sowmya, how can someone improve their communication skills? What will be some tips?
Again, a good question, Sudhakar. Nothing comes easy. We all know that, right? And there's no shortcuts to success in life. So one of the important mantras for good communication is you need to practice. Practice, practice, practice. I think I don't have any other alternative to effective communication. And practice in such a way that it is accompanied with good feedback as well. Let the feedback be critical. Learn from the suggestions given by the people whom you trust and improve upon whatever suggestions that they have seen and whatever they have told you. So you need to identify the flaws in your communication and start working on them. And it's only practice that's going to make you a great communicator. This is number one. Point number two, I would always tell my students and those who are really getting to a jump start in their career that if there is something which you can speak in 2 or 3 different ways, let's say you have a concept to explain to somebody, if you're able to do it in 2 or 3 different ways, there again, you have reached the height of good communication. So you should be able to project your ideas in multiple ways. You need to practice that very, very judiciously. Third one is you need to be a good listener. If you need to be a good speaker, it's very critical that you're a good listener, and only then you can master this art of speaking well. Listen to multiple people, listen to the way they communicate their thoughts. And the last one, which I feel is absolutely important, is your thinking skills. In fact, as Sudhakar and Naveen had spoken earlier, I've done my PhD in thinking skills. I think clear thought will lead to clear talk. The way you process your thinking is really going to reflect on the way you're going to talk. So I keep telling my students that you need to have, say for instance, even if I'm giving an answer to you very spontaneously, I need to quickly think, what should be my introduction? What should be my body? What should be my conclusion? So have a framework, have a strategy. There are multiple videos which speaks to you about various frameworks that you can develop while communicating. So once you start practicing this, you can definitely improve your thinking skills, which will definitely come only through good reading habits and listening skills. So you master thinking, automatically it will reflect in good communication skills. So be a good listener, practice, let it get accompanied with feedback, and master your verbal and non-verbal. These are some of the strategies I would definitely like to call out to the youngsters in case they want to improve their communication.
Fantastic conversation so far, Sowmya. As discussed last week, probably we have to do another episode on clear thought leads to clear talk. So I'm really curious about having an episode on that. So we will be reaching out to you again. And shifting gears slightly, and I want to ask you a difficult question probably. What is something rarely spoken or untold stuff about effective communication?
Wow, that definitely has, shaken me a little bit. The biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. This is one of the famous quotations of George Bernard Shaw. I repeat, the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. You might have spoken what you wanted to say, and you think that the others have listened to it as well. But have they understood? No. Many a time we think that the communication is done once I have spoken or once we have spoken what we wanted to say. It's not true. It has not yet happened. So what you need to do is a constant reality check. So this is important, and this you can do by giving pertinent pauses. Your pauses should not be full stops. It should not sound like you have forgotten what you had to say or you don't know how to proceed. This pertinent pause is required for the audience to reflect upon and absorb what they have heard. And in this time, you can also ask them a couple of questions and give them some scope for taking a recap on whatever you have said so far. So you know to what extent they have perceived and received your information the way you want, and you can proceed further. So never assume or presume that the audience has understood just because you have completed your talk. This is one thing I would like to share. The second important thing is, being a professor, I'll have to bring in some concept and some theory. I think it runs in the blood. There's a very famous theory called the 7-38-50 principle, as laid down by Dr. Albert Mehrabian. He's a professor from the University of California, Los Angeles, who's done extensive research and work on nonverbal communication. So any communication has got the 3 V's to it: the visual, the verbal, and the vocal. For it to be effective, only 7% actually the words matter. 38, the way you speak those words, but 55, your visual presence in terms of your posture, the way you stand, the way you orient yourselves, the eye contact, body language, so on and so forth. So if you look at this ratio, 93% of your communication is nonverbal, and I completely support it, because it is the way you communicate which is going to be of greater impact than the actual words. So this is the famous Mehrabian principle, and I would want all the youngsters to start working more on how they speak rather than what they speak.
Wow.
Wow. Super thoughts so far. And coming to the final question, what are your tips for the students and young professionals who are aspiring to make big in their careers? Given that you have illustrious career in terms of working with reputed organizations, being part of industry as well as academia, doing the highest educational qualification, doctorate, and having been through so many overseas assignments, presented so many different journals, research papers, so on and so forth. So I was really amazed when I saw your profile for the first time, and it would definitely, I was inspired myself, and I would definitely want our audience to be inspired too.
Thank you, Naveen, again. And thank you, Sudhakar. The answer can be very simple, as just saying communication skills, but I don't want to get away by just saying that. Earlier, a person was considered to be literate when he mastered 3 important R's. They used to be the reading, writing, and arithmetic. But today, there are 3 more C's added to the 3 more R's, mainly the collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. But the topmost skill, which I consider as very critical for success in both work and life, is communication skills. This is something I would want both the students and the aspiring professionals who want to really make it very successful in the industry and in their respective careers is, please master the trait of being able to speak well. See, when I say speak well, again, this is a point I want to reiterate. It's not about using fanciful vocabulary. No. It's not about displaying that you know an array of words and you're very verbose in your style. No. Use simple words, but use words which can speak in 2-3 lines of your thought process. Learn to be precise. Learn to condense. Do a 2-minute video, do a 1-minute video, and see for yourself how best you can simplify it. I think being simple is very difficult, and if you're able to communicate what exactly is in your mind in a couple of minutes, I think you have won the game. That's number 1. And personally, if you ask me, I had a department called the Life Skills Department. I keep telling the students today, apart from your technological skills, you need to master the life skills. And for information for the youngsters, please log in to a website called the P21 website, which speaks to you about what are these life skills. These life skills include thinking skills, communication skills, empathy, stress and time management, problem solving, emotional intelligence. So there are about 9 skills which are listed there, and it's better that you start practicing all those skills. So these definitely are the future skills. And number 2, as I told you before, again repeating that you should start thinking better. Read a lot of good books, start processing your ideas, and make your thought process very, very rigid and robust so that the logical planning is done there. Speaking will just become a byproduct. So you need to learn to think better. Another small request to the younger group there, to the audience who are actually listening to this particular presentation of mine. Never ever expect instant gratification. Today, everything is fast food, fast bucks, everything has to be fast. Don't expect quick results. That will never be long lasting. Don't expect for results immediately. Give it some time, and I'm sure a day would come when you would emerge successful. So students, the only thing that I would suggest that all of you did is be dynamic, be agile, and learn to adapt yourselves during these times of changes. So resilience is a beautiful concept that's picking up, and how you bounce back is extremely critical. Bounce back, change your direction. And this is a new word that I have introduced in my recent seminars. Be a velocity victor. It's not about the change in the magnitude alone. Make small changes in the direction in which you want to pursue your things. So the pandemic is a classic example. So don't get stuck up in case you have failed in something or something has not worked well because of the pandemic. Make a small displacement in your life. Be the velocity vector, and I'm sure victory is all yours. Thank you very much.
One thing I must say, I strongly feel I wish I had a professor like you about 20 years ago. Those are all amazing tips, and thank you so much for joining us today. It was indeed a wonderful conversation on the effective communication, and this episode has come out really effective.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you, Sudhakar. And I wish everybody listening to this podcast huge success in whatever you do. Just remember, think smart and talk smart.
Thank you, Dr. Sowmya. Dear listeners, to know more about our speaker and the content, visit or follow us on social media. We are available on all social media platforms, including LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and also on YouTube. Just look out for The Guiding Voice and then follow, like, subscribe to us, and also share within your network. Also feel free to email us at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. It is THEGUIDINGVOICE number 4 letter U @gmail.com, or you can WhatsApp us on India number 9494587187. And we'll be happy to collaborate with you. Alright, so it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. Today's trivia is about response to spam emails. You know, it is estimated that spammers only receive one reply for every 12 million emails that they send out. A whopping number, but a negligible response. However, we need to appreciate their perseverance and persistence because they keep sending emails with some sort of optimism. Interesting, isn't it? Thank you for listening. There is more in store. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful time. Take care. Be safe. Until next time, bye-bye.